Sirian 7 was supposed to be humanity's new beginning. The planet was vast, with blue rivers snaking through endless green plains and mountains that reached into the clouds. It was not Earth, but it had the same kind of promise. For decades, humans had dreamed of colonizing worlds beyond their own, and Sirian 7 was one of the first successful settlements. The cities were small, made of durable metal and glass, but humans had already begun shaping the world to their needs. Commander Elena Voss walked through the main settlement of New Horizon, her boots crunching softly on the gravel paths. She had seen humans thrive in harsh environments before, frozen tundras, deserts, even the vacuum of space. But Sirian 7 held its own challenges. Its thin atmosphere was manageable with minor adjustments to life support systems, but something about the planet felt alive. Elena stopped for a moment at the edge of the city, looking out over the plains. Children were running, their laughter carried by the wind. Engineers were repairing a solar array that had suffered damage during the last storm. Life here seemed peaceful. But peace, she knew, could be fragile. Far above, in orbit, the Varelians watched. The aliens had been observing human expansion for some time, intrigued by their unpredictability and rapid growth. Unlike most species, humans had a strange combination of intelligence and stubbornness. They adapted quickly and always found ways to survive. But the Varelians had a weapon, a silent, invisible weapon, that they believed would be the end of humanity on Sirian 7. The first signs were subtle. People complained of headaches, fatigue, and nausea. At first, doctors thought it was a virus or a reaction to the planet's air, but soon the symptoms grew worse. Respiratory distress, blurred vision, and high fevers began to appear. Elena was called to the central medical facility, where panic had begun to spread among the colonists. Dr. Aaron Beck, the chief medical officer, was pacing nervously. His normally calm demeanor was gone, replaced with worry lines and tense gestures. "Commander," he said, glancing at Elena, "we've never seen anything like this. The patients, they're deteriorating fast. No known Earth virus or bacteria matches these symptoms." Elena frowned. Could it be the air? Something in the atmosphere? Dr. Beck shook his head. "We ran tests. Nothing harmful. The air is clean. Whatever this is, it's designed for humans." The words made Elena stop. Designed, not random. Not natural. "You think someone did this?" Dr. Beck nodded grimly. "I'm afraid so. And it's advanced, far beyond what any human could have made." Elena's mind raced. The Varelians had always been cautious, observing from afar, but they were known for their biological experiments. She had read reports, tales from other species about the Varelians' mastery of toxins and diseases. They didn't need armies to win. Their biology did the fighting for them. Her first instinct was panic. She had led humans in harsh environments before, but this was invisible. She couldn't fight what she couldn't see, but Elena did not panic. She took a deep breath and turned to Dr. Beck. "We survive. We adapt. Gather your team. I want every sample, every test. We will find a way through this." For days, the colony worked tirelessly. The toxins moved faster than anyone expected, spreading through the city in ways humans had never anticipated. Yet humans were stubborn. They worked in shifts, collecting air samples, analyzing symptoms, and trying to find patterns. Each setback was met with new ideas. Engineers began modifying helmets and respirators to filter the air. Farmers experimented with local plants, discovering that some absorbed or neutralized parts of the toxins. Elena moved among her people constantly, inspiring them, calming fears, and directing efforts. Her presence was steadying. Children were moved indoors, schools were temporarily closed, and the community worked together as one. Even the soldiers were pressed into service. Not for combat, but for rescue. They carried the sick to treatment centers, cleared roads, and protected the laboratories from accidental contamination. Meanwhile, in orbit, the Varelians watched with growing confusion. They had expected panic, despair, and defeat. Humans had faced worse conditions before, but this was different. This was supposed to be their end. Yet humans adapted. They used their ingenuity, their knowledge, their very determination to survive. Elena stood in the central lab one night, staring at the results on the holographic display. The toxins interacted with human biology in unexpected ways. "It's slower in humans than in their own species," she muttered. "It's affecting us, but not as fast. And some systems seem to neutralize it naturally. Dr. Beck looked up, hope flickering in his tired eyes. You mean, we can fight it? Elena nodded. Not only fight it, we can survive it, and eventually we can turn this around. A sudden alarm rang through the lab. A new report. A small group of colonists had shown complete resistance to the toxin. Their bodies had neutralized it naturally. Elena's mind raced. If they could replicate this resistance, they could save everyone. They could win against what the Varelians believed to be inevitable. The next few days were a whirlwind of testing, experimentation, and improvisation. Humans were working non-stop, driven by the knowledge that every moment counted. Respirators were improved, plants were tested, detox systems were installed in homes and workspaces. Colonists learned to recognize early symptoms and self-isolate. Children were educated in simple, safe ways to avoid exposure. All the while, the Varelians grew frustrated. Their strategy, flawless on paper, failed against the humans' unpredictable resilience. They could not understand it, how a species so fragile in appearance could endure, adapt, and fight back. One night, Elena walked outside the lab. The twin moons of Xerion 7 hung low in the sky, casting silver light on the plains. She looked at the settlement below, lights twinkling, and thought of the people she had sworn to protect. Each one of them represented hope, ingenuity, and determination. Humans were not the strongest species in the galaxy, nor the most advanced. But they were survivors. A soft voice came from behind her. Commander? It was Lieutenant Harris, one of her closest officers. Do you think they'll come down here? The Varelians? Elena shook her head. Not yet. They think this is enough. They think the toxins will win. But they don't know humans. They don't know what we're capable of when we refuse to give up. Harris nodded, but concern remained in his eyes. We've never faced anything like this. If the toxins evolve... They won't, Elena interrupted gently. We'll evolve faster. We always do. The colony slept in uneasy shifts that night. Alarms and warnings continued, but the humans remained active, alert, and determined. In labs and homes, on farms and streets, every person did their part. Even in fear, they worked together, and slowly the tide began to turn. The first full recoveries were reported. The resistant colonists became crucial test subjects for the rest of the population. Engineers adapted systems faster than the toxins could spread. Doctors found that by combining natural remedies with synthetic solutions, they could reverse the worst symptoms. Above, the Varelians' confidence began to crack. Their plans, their calculations, their invisible weapon, they all depended on the assumption that humans would fall quickly. But humans were nothing if not unpredictable. Elena watched the sun rise over the plains one morning, exhausted but unbroken. The settlement glowed in golden light. The air smelled of earth and hope. The colony had survived another night. They had been tested and they had endured. And as the first birds, native to Xerion 7, sang their morning songs, Elena whispered to herself, "We'll survive. We'll thrive. And they will learn that humanity cannot be defeated so easily." The silent siege had begun, but humans were already fighting back. Not with fire or steel, but with resilience, intelligence, and the unshakable will to endure. The Varelians had underestimated them, and humanity was about to show why. The colonists of Xerion 7 were no strangers to hard work, but the last week had tested them like never before. The toxins that the Varelians had unleashed were relentless, invisible, and terrifying. Yet, against all odds, humans were surviving. Not just surviving. They were adapting. Commander Elena Voss paced the main lab of New Horizon, her boots echoing on the metallic floor. Around her, scientists and engineers worked feverishly, examining data, adjusting respirators, and testing chemical compounds. The air was thick with the hum of machines, the scribble of notes, and the occasional shout of excitement. Dr. Aaron Beck, the chief medical officer, approached her carrying a tray of test samples. "Commander," he said, his voice tight with focus, "we've made some progress. The resistant colonists, their blood contains compounds that neutralize the toxins naturally. We think it's something their bodies produce as a defense. If we can replicate it..." Elena's eyes brightened. "We can save everyone." Aaron nodded. "With time, yes. But the Varelians' toxins are still spreading. Every day counts." Elna took a deep breath. "Then let's waste no more time. Gather your team. We start immediately. For the next few days, the humans worked without rest. They collected blood samples, analyzed the molecular structure, and began synthesizing a neutralizing serum. Engineers modified portable respirators and even created masks infused with the compounds that showed promise in resisting the toxin. Every colonist became part of the effort, either by helping with experiments, delivering supplies, or simply keeping the morale high. Lieutenant Harris was in charge of field testing. He led small teams across the colony to areas most affected by the toxins. Their task was simple: see if the new serum and protective gear worked under real conditions. Every successful test meant hope. Every failure meant adjustment. On one mission, Harris and his team entered a dense forest near the settlement. The air was thick with the alien toxins, making visibility poor and every breath a risk. The colonists wore new respirators and carried vials of the neutralizing serum. "Stay close," Harris instructed, his eyes scanning the shadows. "One mistake and we all get contaminated." The team moved carefully, following paths Elena had marked earlier. They came across a small group of infected wildlife. Normally, this would have been a danger, but the serum had a calming effect even on the creatures. Harris watched as a bird, weakened by the toxins, began to recover after exposure to the neutralizing compound. "This is working," he whispered to himself, a grin spreading across his face. Back at the lab, Elena monitored their progress through sensors and live feeds. Every success in the field strengthened their resolve. Humans were fighting back, and it was more than just survival. It was a message. The Varelians had assumed humans were fragile, predictable, and slow. They had been wrong. Even the children of New Horizon played a part. Simple tasks like planting toxin-absorbing plants around homes and schools became vital. The community worked together, blending science, strategy, and sheer human determination. As the first week passed, the tide began to shift. Recovery rates improved. Those who had been sick were regaining strength. More colonists could venture outside without fear, thanks to improved respirators and preventive measures. Elena gathered her senior team in the lab one evening. "We've bought time," she said. "Now it's time to take control. The Varelians think they've won. They think we're weak, but we are not. We will turn their own weapon against them." Dr. Beck looked puzzled. "Commander, how can we use their toxin against them?" Elena smiled, a spark of determination in her eyes. "We study it, modify it, and target the Varelians' weaknesses. Every toxin is made for a specific biology. If we understand theirs, we can adapt it. Their weapon could become ours." Aaron's eyes widened. "You're suggesting we reverse engineer it?" "Yes," Elna replied. "We have the knowledge, the tools, and the people. It won't be easy, but humans are never easy to predict." The next phase of their plan began. Scientists worked day and night, using samples of the toxin and comparing it with Varelian biology. The aliens had a different respiratory system, different blood composition, and unique molecular structures. Elena and her team hypothesized that a small modification could make the toxin harmful to Varelians while remaining safe for humans. Meanwhile, engineers improved delivery systems. Portable dispensers, aerosol sprayers, and containment units were developed to ensure precise use of the adapted toxin. Every step required precision, intelligence, and creativity, qualities humans had in abundance. In orbit, the Varelians were growing suspicious. Their reports showed human activity increasing, not decreasing. The colonists were no longer panicked. They were organized, resilient, and adapting. "What is happening?" one Varelian commander demanded, his claws tapping nervously on the control panel. "The humans are supposed to be weak. They are supposed to fall, yet they survive, and they fight back." Another Varelian replied, its voice low and filled with unease. "Perhaps we underestimated them, but how? Their biology should fail before our toxins can spread fully. It is impossible." Back on Zerion 7, humans continued their work, unaware of the growing alien panic. Each small victory brought hope, and hope fueled further innovation. The resistant colonists became teachers, guiding others in protective measures. Schools introduced simple lessons on safety and basic science, turning fear into knowledge. Elena often walked through the labs and fields, observing progress. She watched children helping scientists, soldiers assisting engineers, and every person contributing to the effort. "This is humanity," she thought. Not just clever, not just brave, but united. One day, a breakthrough came. Dr. Beck and his team discovered a way to enhance the neutralizing serum, making it more effective and easier to produce. Production ramps increased exponentially, and soon every colonist had access to the new formula. The first full recoveries were reported, and the settlement slowly returned to normal activity. But Elena knew the fight was far from over. Surviving a toxin was one thing. Defeating the Varelian strategy entirely was another. She called a meeting with her senior officers. "We have done something extraordinary," she began, her voice steady and firm. "We survived. We adapted. But the Varelians are still out there watching us. They think they can control this planet with fear and poison. They are wrong. We are going to show them that humans do not submit. Humans fight back. And humans win." Harris leaned forward. "What's the plan, Commander?" Elena outlined the next steps. Continued production of the enhanced serum, testing modified toxin samples against simulated Varelian biology, and preparing a small strike team for a tactical demonstration. Humans would prove not only that they could survive, but that they could dominate the battlefield through intelligence, ingenuity, and unity. The team listened in silence, the weight of responsibility heavy but inspiring. Each member understood the stakes. Failure could mean more colonists falling ill, but success would send a message across the galaxy. Days turned into weeks. Humans tested, modified, and refined their approach. They created portable toxin neutralizers, airborne dispensers to counter toxins in real time, and small defensive units to protect vital areas. Every colonist learned the importance of cooperation and quick thinking. One afternoon, Elena visited a research outpost at the edge of the settlement. The team there had successfully tested a modified version of the toxin that could target Varelian physiology in simulations. The success brought cheers and applause. Hope, long suppressed by fear, was now visible everywhere. Elena looked at the smiling faces of her team, soldiers and colonists. "We are stronger than we realize," she said softly. "Stronger because we never give up and because we never face challenges alone." Night fell over Zirion 7, the twin moons casting silver light over the plains. The settlement was alive with quiet determination. Humans had survived the first wave of the toxins. They were ready for the next challenge. And soon the Varelians would learn that humanity was not only resilient, but dangerous in ways they could never predict. The battle for Zirion 7 had changed. No longer were humans only defending themselves. Now they were preparing to strike back, to show the galaxy that even the most advanced biological weapons could be overcome by ingenuity, unity, and the unbreakable human spirit. And in the quiet moments, when Elena looked at the stars, she knew this was only the beginning. Humanity had survived the invisible enemy. Soon they would make their presence felt, and the Varelians would learn that underestimating humans was the greatest mistake a species could make. The humans of Zirion 7 were no longer on the defensive. They had survived the Varelians' toxins, adapted to the invisible threat, and even begun to understand the alien biology behind it. But surviving was not enough for Commander Elena Voss. Humans were fighters by nature, and she was determined to turn this battle into an opportunity. In the central lab, Elena stood before a large holographic display, showing detailed molecular scans of the Varelian toxins. Dr. Aaron Beck and his team had been working tirelessly for days, analyzing every compound, every protein, every cellular reaction. They were searching for weaknesses in the alien design, small vulnerabilities that could be exploited to make the toxins harmful to the Varelians themselves. "Elena," Dr. Beck said, pointing at the display, "look here. The toxins are designed to attach to a specific enzyme in the Varelian respiratory system. Humans don't have this enzyme, which is why we survived. But if we could modify the toxin, if we can attach it to a trigger that affects their oxygen processing, we could create a counterweapon." Elena's eyes widened. "You mean we could use their own weapon against them?" Aaron nodded. "Exactly. But it's delicate work. One mistake and it could be useless or worse, dangerous to humans." Elena's face hardened with determination. "Then we do it carefully. We test everything. No shortcuts." The lab became a hive of activity. Scientists worked in shifts, carefully modifying the toxin under strict containment protocols. Engineers built machines to measure the reactions at a microscopic level. Soldiers assisted in transporting samples and ensuring that every step was secure. Every colonist in some way contributed to the effort. whether by preparing equipment, analyzing data, or providing moral support. Weeks passed, and progress was steady. Slowly, the humans began to see results. The modified toxin, tested on simulated Varelian cells, began to show the desired effects. It disrupted oxygen absorption and caused temporary paralysis in the alien cells without harming humans. It was not yet a perfect weapon, but it was a start. Elena called a meeting with her senior officers. "We've reached the point where we can strike back," she said. "But this isn't about revenge. This is about survival, and showing the Varelians that humanity cannot be controlled by fear." Lieutenant Harris leaned forward. "Commander, how do we deliver it? We can't just release it into the air. It's dangerous outside controlled conditions." Elena nodded. "We will strike precisely. Small teams, targeted deployment. We have drones and portable dispensers that can carry the modified toxin directly to their forces. No risk to humans, maximum effect on them." The team worked to prepare a strike plan. Portable dispensers were tested for safety and efficiency. Drones were programmed to navigate the forests and plains near the settlement, ensuring they could reach the aliens' positions without detection. Every detail was planned meticulously, yet flexibility remained crucial. Humans were unpredictable, and that was their advantage. Meanwhile, the Varelians grew uneasy. Their reports showed unusual activity among the humans. Small patrols carried strange devices. Scientists were observed working with new compounds. For the first time, the aliens felt that humans were not only resisting, they were learning. One Varelian commander snapped, its claws slamming against a control panel. "They should be weak by now. They should be falling. Yet they adapt. They prepare." "How is this possible?" Another alien hissed, uncertainty in its voice. "Perhaps we underestimated them. Perhaps humans are more dangerous than we thought." Back on Zerion 7, Elena and her team conducted field tests. Harris led a small strike team into the outskirts of the colony, deploying drones equipped with the modified toxin. The drones moved silently through forests and rocky terrain, releasing tiny controlled doses that simulated real combat conditions. The results were encouraging. The modified toxin successfully affected Varelian test samples while remaining harmless to humans. The strike team reported back with precise data, allowing scientists to adjust dosage, dispersal patterns, and drone speed. With every test, the humans' confidence grew. Elena walked through the lab one evening, observing the tireless work. "This is more than survival," she said quietly to Dr. Beck. "This is humans proving that we can adapt faster than any enemy can predict." Aaron smiled, exhaustion etched on his face. "And we're not done yet. Soon we can strike where it counts, and the Varelians will learn that their toxins are not invincible." The colonists were also learning. Children were educated about safety, simple chemistry, and the importance of teamwork. Farmers and engineers experimented with plants and natural compounds to complement the humans' defensive measures. Every person played a role in preparing for the next stage of the fight. Elena knew that preparation alone would not be enough. The strike had to be precise, bold, and coordinated. One misstep could give the Varelians time to respond. She gathered her senior officers once more. "This is our chance," she said firmly. "We've survived. We've adapted. And now we fight back. Not with anger, but with strategy, intelligence, and unity. The Varelians think they are untouchable, but they have never faced humans like this." The plan was simple in concept, but complex in execution. Small teams would infiltrate areas where Varelian forces were detected. Drones would release controlled amounts of the modified toxin. The humans' adaptive strategies would allow them to remain safe while the Varelians experienced confusion, paralysis, and retreat. Every colonist prepared for the strike. Soldiers trained with the drones, engineers double-checked equipment, and scientists fine-tuned the toxin's formulation. There was tension in the air, but also determination. Humans had been tested and had passed. Now it was time to take the fight to their enemy. As the day of the strike approached, the Varelians' confidence began to waver. Their sensors showed unusual patterns of movement, and reports of strange human activity reached every command station. Uncertainty spread among their ranks. For the first time, the aliens felt threatened, not by brute force but by ingenuity, resilience, and unpredictability. Elena stood on a ridge overlooking the settlement, watching the sunrise. The plain stretched out before her, golden and quiet. Soon, the battle would begin. Humans had endured the invisible enemy and turned it into a weapon of their own making. Harris approached her, his expression serious but resolute. "Commander, the teams are ready. Drones are deployed. The colonists are in position." Elena nodded. "Good. Remember, this isn't about destruction. It's about showing them that humans do not surrender. We strike with precision, with intelligence, and with unity. That is our strength." The first drones moved silently over the plains, guided by human operators with careful precision. Tiny doses of the modified toxin were released near Varelian forces. Within moments, reports of paralysis, disorientation, and retreat reached the human teams. The plan was working. Elena watched the live feeds with a mix of pride and relief. Humans were not only surviving, they were dominating the battlefield without endangering themselves. Every team executed their tasks flawlessly, demonstrating adaptability, courage, and teamwork. The Varelians, once confident and cruel, were forced to retreat. Their invisible weapon had been turned against them, and they could do nothing to stop it. Confusion and fear spread among their ranks, a feeling they had rarely experienced in their long history. Back at the lab, the humans celebrated quietly. They had won the first true victory against the Varelians' biological assault. But Elena knew the fight was far from over. The aliens were intelligent and resourceful. They would learn from their mistakes. She turned to her team. "Today we've shown them what humans are capable of. Today we have turned fear into opportunity. But tomorrow we must be ready for whatever they try next. Humanity survives, adapts, and strikes back. That is who we are." As night fell over Zirion 7, the settlement glowed with quiet triumph. Humans had not only endured, they had turned the tables. And in the darkness of space, the Varelians' retreating ships carried a clear message. Humans were unpredictable, resilient, and dangerous. Elena looked at the stars, feeling the weight of responsibility and the pride of her people. "We've turned the tide," she whispered. "But the war is not over. And the galaxy will never forget the day humanity fought back." The humans of Zirion 7 had survived the toxins. They had adapted. And now, for the first time, they had begun to fight, not just for survival, but for victory. The sun rose over Zirion 7, painting the plains and mountains in golden light. The air was calm, almost peaceful, but the humans knew better. Peace was a momentary luxury. Commander Elena Voss stood on the ridge overlooking New Horizon, her eyes fixed on the horizon where distant clouds of dust marked the approach of Varelian forces. The aliens were cautious now, but they had not given up. Elena turned to her senior officers. "This is it," she said, her voice steady. "We've survived the toxins, adapted, and struck back. Now it's time to finish this. We strike at their command center and show them that humanity cannot be controlled." Lieutenant Harris checked his equipment one last time. "The drones are ready. All strike teams are in position." "We just need your orders, Commander." Elena nodded. "Remember, this is precision work. We are not here to destroy the planet or cause unnecessary harm. We are here to send a message. The Varelians underestimated us, and today they will learn their mistake." The plan was daring. A small team of humans would infiltrate the Varelians' orbital command station, using stealth pods and advanced propulsion suits. The modified toxin, refined over weeks of testing, would be deployed in controlled amounts to disable the alien systems and forces. Meanwhile, drones and ground teams would support the operation by providing real-time data and intercepting any attempts at retaliation. Elena watched the first stealth pod launch from the colony's hidden bay. The pod glided silently into the thin atmosphere of Zirion 7 before shooting toward orbit. Inside, Harris and a small strike team prepared themselves, checking restraints, reviewing the plan, and running mental simulations. The tension was palpable, but so was determination. Humans had faced impossible odds before, and they always found a way. As the pod pierced the upper atmosphere, Elena monitored the feed from the ship's cameras. The Varelians' orbital station loomed ahead, massive and imposing. Its metallic surface shimmered under the sun, dotted with sensors and defensive turrets. It was a fortress built to intimidate and control, but humans were nothing if not unpredictable. "Approaching docking bay," Harris reported. "Stealth systems are holding. No detection so far." Elena exhaled, watching the pods glide closer. Every second was critical. Any mistake could alert the Varelians and compromise the mission. Inside the station, the team moved with precision. Harris led, followed closely by engineers and scientists who carried the refined toxin in secure containment units. They bypassed security systems using knowledge gained from weeks of observation. Every door, every corridor, every sensor was carefully navigated. The modified toxin was ready. It had been designed to target the Varelians' respiratory system while leaving humans completely unharmed. The team's goal was not to destroy the station but to incapacitate its defenses and send a clear message. Humans could not be controlled or intimidated. Back on the colony, Elena watched the live feed, her heart steady but her mind alert. "Keep an eye on the drones," she instructed. "They must support the strike team and intercept any Varelian response. Timing is everything." The humans inside the station reached the central control chamber. The Varelians, caught off guard by the stealth pod's approach, had not detected the intrusion. Harris carefully deployed the toxin into the station's ventilation system. The chemical spread silently, moving through corridors and systems, reaching every area where the aliens operated. Minutes passed, and then the effects began. Varelian officers stumbled, confused and disoriented. Sensors malfunctioned, turrets froze, and communication lines flickered. The aliens were overwhelmed not by firepower, but by the weapon they had designed themselves. Harris and his team moved quickly, documenting the results and ensuring that the toxin's deployment remained contained. They were careful not to harm the station's structure or any non-combatants. Precision was their advantage, and humanity had learned to wield it well. On the ground, drones moved with deadly accuracy, intercepting attempts by Varelian reinforcements to respond. Humans communicated seamlessly, coordinating strikes, adjustments, and movements in real time. Every colonist played a part, whether by monitoring systems, analyzing data, or guiding drones through complex terrain. The Varelians, previously so confident, now faced chaos. Their systems failed, their officers were incapacitated, and their plans unraveled in ways they had never imagined. Panic spread across the station as humans executed the final phase of their plan. "Elena," Harris reported through the comms, "the station is under control. Varelian forces are retreating. The modified toxin worked perfectly. Systems are stabilizing and we have minimal risk to humans." A smile broke across Elena's face. "Excellent work. Begin extraction. Return to Xyrion 7. We've done it." The strike team retraced its path, moving quickly but carefully back to the stealth pods. The Varelians, disoriented and paralyzed, were unable to mount an effective pursuit. The pods launched from the station, gliding safely back to the planet's surface. As Harris and his team landed, the colony erupted in quiet celebration. Humans had not only survived the toxins, they had turned the enemy's weapon against them and won. Elena addressed the colonists from the central plaza. "Today we have shown what humanity is capable of. We faced an invisible enemy, adapted, and turned the tide. The Varelians believed they could control us with fear and toxins. They were wrong. Humanity cannot be defeated so easily." Cheers and applause filled the plaza. Soldiers, scientists, engineers, and children all shared in the victory. The sense of unity was stronger than ever. Humans had learned not only to survive, but to fight back with intelligence, creativity, and courage. But Elena knew the importance of humility. "This victory is significant," she continued, "but it is also a warning. The galaxy is vast and threats will come. What we have learned here, resilience, ingenuity, and cooperation, will guide us through every challenge we face. Never forget, humanity survives, adapts, and triumphs together." Meanwhile, the Varelians retreated to orbit, their confidence shattered. Their chemical weapon had been turned against them, and they had learned a lesson that no calculation or strategy could fully account for. Humans were unpredictable, resilient and unstoppable when united. One alien commander, watching the chaos from its ship, hissed in disbelief. "They survived. And they struck back. How is this possible?" Another replied, voice filled with unease. "We underestimated them. They are dangerous in ways we cannot predict. Perhaps we should leave this system before it is too late." Back on Xyrion 7, Elena walked through the settlement at dusk. The plains stretched out in golden light, the twin moons rising gently in the sky. Children played, soldiers trained, and scientists returned to their labs with renewed determination. Life was returning to normal, but humanity had changed. Elena paused, looking at the horizon. "We have survived the impossible," she whispered to herself. "We have adapted, fought back, and shown that we are more than just survivors." We are humanity, and no one, no matter how clever or cruel, will underestimate us again. The final gambit had succeeded. Humans had taken the fight to the Varelians and emerged victorious. The colonists had survived, adapted, and struck with precision and intelligence. Zarian 7 was safe, at least for now. But the galaxy would never forget the day humanity turned the tables. And in the quiet of the night, as stars shimmered overhead, Elena knew one truth more clearly than ever. Humanity's strength was not in weapons, nor in numbers, but in unity, courage, and the refusal to surrender. The final gambit had proven it, and the galaxy would soon learn the same lesson. Zarian 7 was quiet again, but it was a different kind of quiet. The tense panic of the toxins and the chaos of the strike had passed. Now the humans of New Horizon walked the plains and streets with purpose and pride. The settlement glowed softly in the golden afternoon light, and for the first time in weeks, Elena Voss allowed herself a moment to breathe. The victory had been hard won. The Varelians had retreated to orbit, their forces weakened and demoralized. Their chemical weapons had failed, their confidence shattered, and they had learned that humans were far more than fragile creatures. Elena knew this was more than a victory for Zarian 7. It was a message for the galaxy. She walked through the central plaza, watching children play under the protective covers of toxin-absorbing plants, soldiers train in formations that blended precision and creativity, and scientists repairing drones and equipment. Every human she saw was part of the victory, and each one carried the resilience that had defined their species for centuries. Dr. Aaron Beck approached her, a faint smile on his tired face. "Commander, the toxin-neutralizing systems are fully operational. Every colonist is safe, and our strike against the Varelians has proven effective." "The enemy is in retreat," Elena nodded. "Good, but we cannot let this moment make us complacent. We've survived an attack, adapted, and turned the tables, but the galaxy is vast. There will be other threats. We must remain vigilant." Aaron studied her, admiration in his eyes. "Commander, humanity has done something incredible here. Not just surviving a biological assault, but reversing it. The galaxy will hear about this. They will learn that humans are resilient, intelligent, and unpredictable." Elena's eyes reflected the distant suns. "Let them. They should know. Humans are not to be underestimated. We endure, we adapt, and we fight back when challenged. That is who we are." The colonists had begun rebuilding not just physically, but spiritually. Confidence replaced fear, and curiosity replaced panic. Farmers planted new crops with the knowledge that nature could be an ally. Engineers refined their technologies to prevent future attacks. Children learned the lessons of survival and resilience, understanding that intelligence and unity were as powerful as any weapon. Elena convened a council of the senior team in the main lab. "We've done well," she said. "But we also have a responsibility now. Zarian 7 is secure, but we must prepare for the wider galaxy. Word of our resilience will spread, and some species may see humans as a threat." Lieutenant Harris leaned forward. "Commander, do we anticipate retaliation from the Varelians?" Elena considered the question. "Possibly. But they will think twice before underestimating humans again. We've shown them what we are capable of. And if any species ever doubts humanity, Zarian 7 will serve as proof. We survive, we adapt, we fight back." Across the settlement, humanity's efforts were paying off in ways that went beyond defense. Scientists were sending communications to nearby systems not as threats but as messages of caution and wisdom. The story of Zarian 7 was one of courage and unity, a beacon for other species that peace and resilience were stronger than fear. In orbit, the Varelians regrouped. Their commanders communicated with concern and frustration. "The humans survived our toxins," one hissed. "They adapted faster than predicted. They struck back with precision. Their unity is beyond what our calculations allowed." Another replied, "We cannot underestimate them. They are unpredictable. We must retreat, at least for now. They have proven dangerous." Back on the surface, Elena stood with her team near the plains where the first toxin tests had begun. The landscape had recovered, and the human presence had brought new life to the region. Plants planted for toxin neutralization had flourished. Drones and equipment hummed quietly, and the settlement thrived with the energy of a species that had faced impossible odds and won. Children ran past her, laughing and free, oblivious to the dangers they had narrowly escaped. Soldiers trained nearby, honing skills that were no longer just about survival but about mastery of their environment. Scientists discussed new strategies and technologies inspired by the success of their previous efforts. Elena watched it all, pride swelling in her chest. "This is what it means to be human," she said softly. "Not just to survive, but to rise above challenges, to adapt and to thrive against odds that seem impossible." The humans of Zirion 7 had sent a message not only to the Varelians, but to the galaxy itself. Humanity was not to be dismissed or underestimated. The story of their resilience, intelligence, and courage would travel far beyond this small planet, reaching distant worlds and inspiring other civilizations to rethink their assumptions. Elena gathered the colonists one evening in the central plaza. The twin moons hung low in the sky, casting silver light across the settlement. "We have faced a threat unlike any other," she began. "We have been tested and challenged, and yet we have not only survived, we have adapted and triumphed. This is proof of what humanity can do when united by determination and guided by intelligence." A cheer rose from the crowd. Soldiers, scientists, engineers, and children all felt the weight and pride of their shared experience. It was more than a victory. It was a lesson, Elena continued, her voice calm but resolute. The Varelians believed they could control us with fear. They believed we were fragile, weak, and predictable. They were wrong. Humans endure. Humans adapt. And when challenged, humans fight back in ways that no one can anticipate. This is our legacy. This is our strength. The colony celebrated that night, but not with reckless joy. Their victory was a lesson in unity, intelligence, and perseverance. Humans had survived the impossible, and they had proven that survival alone was not enough. They had turned the challenge into triumph. In the quiet moments that followed, Elena stood alone on a hill overlooking the settlement. The stars twinkled overhead, distant and infinite. She thought of the galaxy beyond Zirion 7, of other civilizations watching, and of the future humans would face. "The galaxy will remember this day," she whispered. "Not because we fought, but because we endured, adapted, and proved that humanity cannot be defeated so easily." The Varelians, meanwhile, had returned to deep space, retreating with a new understanding. They would no longer underestimate humans. Every calculation, every strategy, every expectation had failed against the adaptability, ingenuity, and resilience of humanity. Elena knew that this was only the beginning. Humanity would face other challenges, other threats, and other battles. But they were ready. They had learned the value of unity, intelligence, and courage. They had discovered that resilience was as important as strength, and that survival was only the first step toward victory. She looked down at the settlement, the glowing lights reflecting hope and determination. Humans were not just survivors. They were masters of their fate, capable of turning challenges into opportunities, weakness into strength, and fear into action. Elena smiled. "We've shown the galaxy who we are," she said quietly, "and they will never forget it." The children played on the plains, the soldiers trained with new confidence, and the scientists continued their work. Humanity had endured the invisible threat, adapted faster than any enemy expected, and struck back with intelligence and precision. Zirion 7 was safe, and humanity's reputation had been strengthened across the stars. The final lesson was clear: underestimate humans at your own risk. They were a species that survived, adapted, and triumphed in the face of impossible odds. They were resilient, intelligent, and united. They were humanity. And as the twin moons reflected on the plains, casting silver light across the colony, Elena knew that this lesson would echo across the galaxy for generations. The humans of Zirion 7 had faced extinction, fought back, and emerged victorious. The galaxy would never see them the same way again,